Harold was tasked by the world government to help the Marines in secret to defeat pirates as part of Harold's vow to atone for the giant's 1,000 years worth of sins. We see Harold cutting a pirate ship in two in the middle of the sea. The narrator explains that there was a rumor spreading amongst the countries on the Grand Line that on the seas with heavy mist lived a monster that mainly targets pirates. But the narrator says too that Harold is not the Florian Triangle monster, because he attacked ships in other regions too. Okay, so coming off of the previous chapter, we saw that Harold was trying to redeem himself in the eyes of the world government by ripping his own horns off as a sign of renouncing the ancient giants, and as it says, their 1,000 years of sins or whatever. Also, it's really interesting that it's being brought up here that he is specifically being mentioned by the narrator to not be the Florian Triangle monster. I think this is literally the first time that we have heard of this thing since it first appeared in Thriller Bark, which was 17 years ago. And this is surprisingly kind of topical, at least in the online community, because ever since we saw what Emu looked like at God Valley possessing Saturn, there's been tons of clickbait YouTube videos out there saying oh, Emu's the Florian Triangle monster, look guys. And don't get me wrong, 2 years ago, before all of that stuff, I already made a video about that. Didn't really blow up on YouTube, but it definitely blew up on TikTok. But then again, TikTok's algorithm is broken, so it's really easy to blow up on there. You kind of just fart into the microphone, and if it sounds like a grandiose One Piece theory, then it'll get 100,000 views. But I guess this just means that Oda does remember that the Florian Triangle monster is a thing, and it's probably going to come back into play. Does that mean that it is Emu? Probably. I mean, that would be a good way for Oda to just come full circle with that. I mean, I don't think it was Emu at that time, but I think it would just be a great way for Oda to make use of that thing that he set up and probably forgot about. Narrator says that after God Valley incident, some pirates that participated in that event conquered the seas. Roger, Newgate, Linland, Kaido, we already knew this. After Roger's death, okay, so we're about a little over 20 years ago in the timeline at this point, Harold was promoted by the 5 elders to the devoted Blade of God, a confidant of the Knights of God. He was marked with a tattoo on his left arm. Harold says, "What an honor." And the 5 elders say, "There are 3 stages to the contract. The surface sea contract is but a faint time. Deep sea contract and sea floor contract are the real vows exchanged between the 13 chosen and God." Harold says, "God?" Nostro says, "If a day should come where you are to be granted with the title of Knight of God." Harold says, "Will Elbaf be welcomed into the circle of the world government as well?" And the 5 elders say, "Indeed." Hey, also guys, can we try to get 3,000 likes on this video? I'm sure you're watching it on your phone. Just hit that like button right there. It'll help the video. It'll help me. Thanks guys, I appreciate it. So this whole devoted Blade of God thing, or Blade of God, I mean, there's various translations. We're going off of read-on stuff here, but we saw this title before with Gunko during God Valley. So it seems like Gunko was originally a Blade of God, which is tier 3, I guess, of the highest echelon of the world government authority, military, whatever. And then after God Valley, she became a Holy Knight, which is tier 2. And then I guess tier 1 is the Gorosei. And apparently there's contracts that come with these tiers or stages, which are the surface sea contract, the deep sea contract, and then the sea floor contract. There for sure is some kind of deeper meaning to it, specifically relating to sea measurements, because the way the devil fruits work with their weakness to the sea and all that stuff, and the planet being the blue planet mainly for its water. That's the name of the One Piece world. It's called the Blue Planet. How the sea floor is mentioned multiple times throughout the series in various ambiguous ways, and I'm sure you've seen tons of theories about how the One Piece is probably at the sea floor or something, so that probably has something to do with all that stuff for sure. I'm sure this is related to the One Piece and the Void Century, Davy Jones, all that stuff. And we're also seeing that Harold is getting a tattoo because he is a Blade of God, or a God Blade or whatever. And we talked about this in yesterday's spoilers, but we saw that tattoo on Shanks' left arm as well, and it seems like we were right in our assumptions, because we're going to find out some stuff in a little bit. But first, guys, those of you who have been following me know that I have owned a Hovsco Hov GTR-S for a while now, and I absolutely love this e-bike. These are the new cool type of e-bikes out there that I see a bunch of you Gen Alphas riding around on, so I had to get one for myself, and it's pretty incredible. Like I said, this thing has a 1500 watt peak motor that delivers super powerful acceleration and handles various terrains effortlessly. be. It actually has up to a top speed of 32 miles per hour. That is really fast. It has a 48 volt 15 Ah battery that ensures long range riding, which is ideal for like commuting or just going on an adventure. It has a multi-function LCD display that shows the speed, battery level, and mileage in real time. Also, all Hofsco e-bikes come with free US shipping and a 2-year warranty, with 100 plus dealers offering test rides and maintenance. So guys, Black Friday's coming up and Hofsco has a pretty incredible deal. So go through the link in my description, because if you get the Hofsco Hov GTRS, you will get a Hofsco helmet, mobile phone holder, and lock set for free, which has an original value of $259. That is a wild deal, guys, and this offer is not going to last long. So again, go through the link in my description. Thanks. Garling gave Harold a long distance Den Mushi to contact him immediately when necessary. Harold drunk with Neptune, who tells him his daughter was about to be born. Neptune joked that Loki and his daughter should get engaged. Harold referred to Shirahoshi as Mosa Mosa. Okay, so this is like a jump in time or something. Harold apparently knows Neptune, which I guess we didn't know about. And that's not even really like the interesting part about this. It's that, first of all, Garling gave Harold a long distance Den Mushi, and that Harold is calling Shirahoshi Mosa Mosa. I don't know why he's referring to Shirahoshi as Mosa Mosa in this sequence, considering that she's not even born yet, unless he's assuming that Shirahoshi is going to look like Neptune, who is more applicable to being Mosa Mosa, because in Japanese that means to be hairy or to be thickly bearded, or maybe even shaggy, which we should talk about now, because I'm sure a lot of you thought, hey, isn't that the name of the person who was talking to Loki back at the beginning of this arc through that Den Mushi? And most likely, yes, that's probably what's going on here, because back in chapter 1134, we saw that Loki was talking to this random person on this Den Mushi, and it is looking pretty Mosa Mosa or shaggy. And it seems like they had been in correspondence for a little bit now. And talking to this person, Loki was like, are you still traumatized by that experience you were telling me about? And Shaggy or Mosa was like, I am. Even now the memory makes me tremble uncontrollably. And Loki's like, it hurts me to hear it too. I've never met you nor seen you, but through some twist of fate, we've been long friends. And the conversation continues a little bit, poking at how Loki is actually truly a good guy or whatever. But does this mean that Shaggy or Mosa is Shirahoshi? That's a weird twist. But Loki's saying, are you still traumatized by that experience you were telling me about? And then Shaggy or Mosa saying, I am. Even now the memory makes me tremble uncontrollably. Are they talking about what had happened at the Reverie? I'm just taking a guess, but from what we're finding out in this chapter, I guess this has to be Shirahoshi. And if it's not Shirahoshi, then it's Neptune, but I guess it's Shirahoshi. And also, she would make way more sense to be Loki's love interest than Lola. I mean, in more ways than one. And I'm not going to get into the age stuff because Oda doesn't really care about that, evidently, as we have seen so far. 15 years ago, during Fisher Tiger's escape from Mary Joie, we see Hancock and her sisters too. A mysterious figure helped Fisher Tiger while he freed the slaves. It's clear that the mysterious figure was Shanks. So yeah, we went over this yesterday. Fisher Tiger was like Jinbei's original captain. He was the leader of the Sun Pirates. He was like the big fisherman guy besides Neptune, I guess. And he was eventually captured by the world government and enslaved. He broke out. We already knew that, but it was Shanks who helped him, because Shanks was already at Mary Joie, and we're going to get into why he was. Harold arrived to the Holy Land during the next days and saw Shanks talking with Shamrock in the city. Shanks now lived in Mary Joie with Garling and Shamrock. Shanks wore a Knight of God uniform like his brother and had a bandage over his left eye. No explanation about the injury on Shanks' face in this chapter. Both were talking about the Fisher Tiger incident. Shanks says, "Let's go, Shamrock. Tell me more about the Holy Land. I want to capture the culprit so I could be useful. Do we have any clues so far?" And then it says, "Devoted Blade of God, Figureland family, Saint Shanks." And then Shamrock says, "It's wiser to wait until you're all healed up, Shanks. Member of the God Knights, Figureland family, Saint Shamrock." Shanks angrily says, "You guys wouldn't get it. How it feels to have wasted 24 years of your life. No wonder I always felt like I didn't belong. Everything was disgusting. That is a massive reveal there. Shanks, like we speculated about yesterday, was / technically is a blade of God. But we didn't know that he was just living in Marijois with Garling and Shamrock and was like an active member of their forces. But anyway, like we were talking about yesterday, we saw that tattoo on Shanks' left arm at the beginning of this flashback when he was like in that hot spring thing with Scopper. And then once we found out about the tier system and the tattoos and everything, we were like, oh, that might mean that Shanks is a blade of God, and he was. But, you know, saving Luffy from that Sea King, he lost his left arm, so the tattoo went with it. So I guess whatever kind of supernatural ability that is tied to that is no longer affecting Shanks, so that explains that. But also, I mean, it's pretty clear here that Shanks is kind of just undercover. I mean, he's not like earnestly trying to be a part of the Celestial Dragons. Oda shows us at the beginning of this sequence, before that's even revealed, that he is helping Fisher Tiger actively escape along with the other slaves there. Shamrock also tells Loki that Shanks did return to the Holy Land once, but he seems to prefer the filth of the lower world, so obviously that means that, yeah, this was just a facade and he winds up leaving shortly after this. So why is he doing this? I guess he's trying to get information. He's trying to figure things out, which I guess ultimately leads to him getting the Nika fruit, right? Because we know that he stole that from Who's Who. Of course, Luffy eventually wound up accidentally eating it, but Shanks knows things. And he's there because of the things that he knows. And he's trying to know more things because of that. And as for him having the bandage on his eye, well, it's pretty obvious that's because recently he got slashed by Blackbeard. So that means that that happened 15 years from the current time in the story. And as we've talked about many times before, Blackbeard probably went after Shanks because somehow he knows that Garling killed Rocks, I guess. I don't know how he knows. Maybe we'll find out in 6 years. And actually, now that I think about it, that might be the reason why Shanks comes to Marijois. Because since he's freshly bandaged, that means it recently happened, like we said. And during that encounter with Blackbeard, I guess Blackbeard told Shanks, like, hey, you're the son of the guy that killed my father, so yeah. Then maybe that is the point in time when Shanks finds out that he is a celestial dragon, and he's like, let me go to Marijois and see what's up there. Let's see what I can find out there. In Elbaf, Ida felt ill, but she refused to contact Harold since he was busy with his mission. Hyrden went out to the sea to find a doctor while Loki is also worried for her, but he won't show it. Both Loki and Hyrden were adults now. Ida said to her close friends that even if they are not connected by blood, Loki was also a precious son of her like Hyrden. At the end of the chapter, Loki discovered that the Brewers village poisoned Ida as revenge for Estrid. Loki says, what? What did you say just now? And the Brewers village giant says, I'm talking about the absurdity of letting an outsider woman like her becoming the queen. Surely you agree, Loki. We are both of the same clan as the true Queen Estrid. All treasures and power belong to us. That's why I poisoned her with this ergot. No one could stop it anymore. Her fate is sealed. In the amazing final double page of the chapter, Loki destroyed Brewer's village. We see the village in flames as Loki grabs by the neck the giant who poisoned Ida. The giant says, ow, Loki, what the heck? And Loki says, Ida won't die from this, right? I remember well, my biological mother threw me into the underworld in distaste. Screw the treasures. What a trash clan. Ida better not die from this. She's the only one. Ida in the past says, you look lonely, Loki. Why not come to my place? Loki says, that I'd call my mother. End of chapter, no break next week. So this is awesome. Loki is like the new Rocks type character that we're going to get behind once we come back into the current time in the story. And it's just cool that he's doing this. I mean, he's repping Ida, who is not his biological mother, but more of like his adopted mother, kind of. She's Hyrden's mother, his half-brother. And as we saw, Estrid, who is essentially like a celestial dragon, but not, literally one, but she acts that way, threw Loki off the freaking Atom Tree after she saw his, crazy eyes. And Loki obviously remembers that, as he mentioned this here, but he's also remembering that Ida was kind to him as she was kind to everyone. I mean, she's the reason that Harold is the way that he is now, because he definitely didn't start off that way. And he's like, yeah, she's my real mother. She's the only one I'll call that. Because also Estrid just randomly died. She had some illness or something, I forget, but it's not really that important. But her clan that she comes from are like nobles or whatever, or just like high class people in Elbaf. Like, that's why Harold had to be with her. It was like an arranged marriage because Ida is not got that. She was kind of just a commoner. And that also probably has something to do with why Loki is so incredibly powerful and has those crazy supernatural eyes, which will be explained later. It's probably some kind of recessive ability or something. But I guess we're going to find out in the next chapter if Ida dies from this or not, because ergot is actually like a real thing. It's like a fungi. I guess death isn't guaranteed when you're poisoned by it, but the way that the guy is talking here with the her fate is sealed, maybe she's going to die. I don't know. She is a mother in this series, so it's very likely that she will die. But, you know, we'll see. Let me know what you thought about this chapter in the comments, guys. If you liked it, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.